So it was a beautiful, beautiful sunny day. I get out of bed after an exciting night on Friday, May 11th, and I walk down to McCarthy Park to the volunteer headquarters. We're waiting for someone to enter the park with the keys to the U-Haul so we can get things started. And I'm standing there, and we're talking, and we're talking about the weather, of course, because that's what was on everyone's mind on May 12th, the morning of May 12th. And the sun is out there. The sun's bright in the sky. It's a beautiful day. The birds are chirping. It's beautiful. It's warm. And we keep looking at the weather map. And everyone says, what are we going to do about the rain? What are we going to do about the rain? I told them, don't worry. There's not going to be any rain. Last year we dealt with that, right? We dealt with the rain scares the morning of May 13th for the inaugural Millvale Music Festival. We talked about the rain, and it was supposed to rain all day. And that morning, they were calling for rain. And I said then, don't worry about it. The rain is not going to come. I'm going to put vibes out into the energy out into the atmosphere, into the universe, positive energy, and we're going to will the rain away. And it seemed like it was working. We went out, and I got some sheets printed up for the hosts. We had some last-minute changes to the schedule, and things were going well. I did a little pre-show down at Gap Park with Jay Cooper, who was with me Saturday morning, here on the river's edge. He was hosting the Gap Park stage, and everything looked beautiful. And then I go out to Sedgwick Street for the art show, the art festival that we added to this year's Millvale Music Festival. And there, the weather as well was shining. It was beautiful. It was fantastic. And it was so great to see all of the artists lined up on both sides of the road. People were coming and going. It was packed. It was a huge success. Everyone loved the art element. And there was an energy that you could feel walking up and down the street, surrounded by beautiful art, surrounded by a beautiful sunshine and amazing music on the stage. And I was on my way to, I believe I was on my way here, actually, to Mr. Smalls. We were going to do an interview for Mr. Bones, which is a group that's just starting up that's going to events to cover events like the Millvale Music Festival. And they wanted to interview me. And on our way to Smalls, while we're standing there talking, all of a sudden, the apocalypse hit Millvale like a comet that struck the town and incinerated everything in sight. A giant wind gusted through the valley with a horrible, horrible storm in about a matter of 2 minutes. That's right, just 2 minutes. 6 venues went down. Chaos ensued. People were running for cover. Stages were so wet they had to come up with mops to try to ease the water so equipment didn't get drenched. An entire stage fell over at one part of town and someone's equipment was destroyed. And all of that happened in a matter of 2 minutes. And all of my positive vibes, all of my energy going out into the atmosphere, it all just came hurling back. It's like an episode of Dragon Ball Z where Goku has the giant spirit ball and he flings it out at the enemy, but the guy's too powerful and he knocks it back with a force that Goku just wasn't prepared to handle. That's exactly what I felt like. And I'm walking around town, and instead of taking pictures of bands and artists, instead of taking video to publish, I went around posting status updates about bands moving and stages canceling and then stages being revived and everything else. And that's how I spent the Millvale Music Festival for the first part of the day. Welcome to the River's Edge Radio Network. This is River Talk. I'm Brian Crawford. We have lots in store for you today. I want to hear your Millvale Music Festival stories. I want to hear all of that stuff. We've got Mike Hitt in studio and Patrick as well, and we're going to be talking about the PHILLTER Fest. So we've got lots of stuff in store for you today, but the main story, of course, is the Millvale Music Festival, your reaction. And I was happy with the response. Everyone on the street kept saying how organized we seemed, even though behind the scenes we all felt a little chaotic. We were all scrambling and trying to get things together. Luckily, we had a lot of great communication amongst the committee, and that really helped. But everyone kept telling me how great it was and how organized it was. And really, if you walked around and you looked across the streets, you would see that people were happy. People were having a great time. People were having a ton of fun. But in my mind, I kept thinking how I really wanted to push these local artists from some of these smaller stages, or not as visible stages that weren't being streamed, for example, from either us or Sidekick Media Services or the Metal Edge. And I wasn't able to do any of that. And I kind of had a feeling the entire day where I was a little bit upset because things just weren't going the way I had hoped. And then at the end of the night, we moved into Mr. Small's, the theater stage, which was a stage that did not start until 6. And thankfully, what had happened is several transformers had blown, and that's what caused several of these stages to go down. And luckily, Duquesne Light sent in, I think, their entire fleet of trucks to fix the transformers and get things up. And the power was only out for about an hour. And all of the stages came back. Almost all of the bands got to play that were scheduled. And the main theater stage here at Smalls, that was able to start on time. And I walked into that theater, and there's a picture that I have posted on Facebook, which I can show you. You can just check it out on actually the River's Edge page. There's a post with it. We had the entire theater packed. It was a packed house. The fun house was packed. The theater was packed. There were people sitting outside in the courtyard, everywhere. People were everywhere. And mind you, we had packed this place, every venue. Downstairs was also packed in the cafe. We had packed all of these venues here in this building at the same time that venues were being packed all across town. And then when I saw that, it put a smile on my face, despite the rain, despite everything. And many people, I'm sure, did go home. They didn't want to stand in the rain. But despite everything, people stuck it out, and people packed the place, and it was great. And it was so wonderful to see so many people in one place. Because honestly, I'll be quite honest, I was worried in the beginning, before the rain, before all of the turmoil, before the chaos, I was worried about filling this main theater stage here at Mr. Small's. It's an 800-some person capacity theater, and we had to fill that theater with all local bands because everybody that plays in the festival, you can't apply if you don't live within a 100-mile radius. So all local bands here, we were dividing the traffic between here, the Funhouse, Double L, Howard's, Cousins, Gap Park, everywhere. And we still had the place packed. So even in its best day, there was a part of me that was worried about really filling that big of a space. Because even if you got a good crowd for that space, even if you did get a lot of people, it's such a big space that it could still feel empty. But it wasn't empty on May 12th. So those are some of my thoughts of the Millvale Music Festival. We can go more into that. I'd like to hear some of your thoughts as well. I know we have some Facebook traffic on that front, and we're going to get into all of that. We're going to talk about your comments. We're going to talk about the election as well, where the socialists in Pittsburgh did very well in the primary, the Democratic primary season. And I want to hear your thoughts on that. Are you excited about that? Are you a socialist and excited to see socialist candidates beating out long-term Democrat incumbents? Or does it worry you a little bit? Are you worried? We already have a state government here in Pennsylvania that can't get anything done. Remember, it was just a short time ago where we had a Republican House, a Republican Senate, the Republican courts with the Supreme Court, and a Republican governor. And despite the fact that everyone was a Republican, they still couldn't get anything done. So does that worry you that some of the more moderate candidates in Harrisburg, maybe some people that could be that gap to to bring people together or work together to get votes done? Are you worried that some of those people have been removed from office and some more hardliner type candidates have moved in? Are you worried about cooperation? Harrisburg's already not functioning very well. If you bring in candidates that aren't as willing or as able to work across the aisle, is that something you're worried about? Are you worried about more issues coming out in that regard? I want to hear your thoughts there. You can call us if you'd like at 412-4072-PGH. It's 412-407-2744. Or you can hit me up on Twitter. My Twitter account is at RiverTalkPGH. Or, as most people like to do, you can message us in the Facebook Live chat, and that could be read, and you can comment there on the Facebook page, and that is at RiverTalkPGH. I want to hear your Millvale Music Festival comments. Please, if you have any of those, let me see what we have here. Well, we'll go through your Millvale Music Festival comments, but if you have any of those, please post those now. It was a great event. It was a lot of fun, and it was funny because one of the comments I did receive in regards to the Millvale Music Festival, which really I thought was interesting, and that is one thing. We will read comments, too, that are negative about the festival. That's right, we're open to criticism as well. It's not all roses. And unlike the cowards at the Millvale Peeps group on Facebook, if you disagree with me, I'm not going to ban you from the show or the page. No, we'll accept your comments, we'll read them, and we'll have a discussion, and we won't hide behind the covers like frightened children with the slightest bit of dissent or disagreement. And it was a really funny thing, and that is one thing. If you do disagree with me, we'll read your comment, we'll have the discussion. But honestly, if your comments or your ideas are dumb, I will tell you that your comments or ideas are dumb as well. And the one I'm referring to in the Millvale Peeps group, which I thought was great, the festival was criticized for not closing more streets down. We had closed 2 streets down during the festival. We closed Sedgwick Street, which is where we had the Arts Festival, and we closed Bowerline Street, which is what we also closed that last year. Bowerline Street right outside of Sidelines and the Barking Shark, and we put a big stage up there. And that's fine if you want to criticize us for not closing more streets down, and maybe there's some merit to that. But the argument, we kept them open because we thought people would want to be able to drive down the main roads. And as someone who used to live on Grant Avenue, I can appreciate that. But the one argument I received, and I just had to laugh, the reason why we were told that we should close the streets down is for safety reasons. So, of course, I saw the status in the group, and I shared it on my wall, and I said, people are actually saying that we should make the festival safer by limiting access to emergency personnel. Let me repeat that. We should make the Millvale Music Festival safer by limiting access to emergency personnel. Stupid, 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 stupid. It's like the stupid alarm is going off in studio. I've never heard anything so dumb. Now, I can see the argument of wanting to shut the streets down. That's fun. I enjoy that during Millvale days when they shut down Grant Avenue and you can stumble into the street with a beer. But we weren't really, we had a lot of beer sponsors for the festival, but we weren't really looking to make it a drunk fest, which Millvale days is most people there are pretty respectable. I enjoy it. I love it. I loved living on Grant Avenue and being able to walk outside of my house into the middle of the street with a bar. I mean, with a beer, with a bar. That would be great if I could walk around with a full bar available. It's a lot of fun, but that's not what we were really looking to do at the Millvale Music Festival, but maybe that's something we can think about in the future. But the idea that we're going to close streets down to make things safer, I'm still just trying to grasp that one. But if you have any thoughts, please let us know. Hi, Elaine. Elaine from Medicap Pharmacy. She was one of the great sponsors of the Millvale Music Festival. She's in the chat right now. I also see Lindsay Thomas, who owns the Double L Bar. She's there as well. But please, we want to hear your thoughts at not at Millvale Music, at River Talk PGH, or again, you can comment in the Facebook Live feed as well. Let's bring in my friend here. And as you can see, I'm running solo. Everybody's so exhausted from the Millvale Music Festival that everybody's bailed me today. I'm one man, one guy, here alone. My co-host, He's gone. My engineer, he's away. It's just one man, Brian Crawford, one man in a studio with some great guests. And we're going to bring in one of those guests. We have Mr. Mike Hitt.
Yes.
And he is right here. Mike, how's it going today?
It's going great. I was actually at Millvale Music Fest I was there from 4 o'clock until it ended at I probably went home at 2 in the morning. And I'll tell you what, it was awesome. Everything ran smooth. And I was there. I was at Double L Bar to see a friend play. And it was crazy.
Who did you go to see?
It's my friend Christina. I can't remember the actual name of her full band. But it was about 4:30 they went on, and let me tell you, it was sunshine, and 45 minutes later, like you said, it just went boom.
It was crazy.
Yeah, and I was helping them. I was like, you need help? Because, first all the equipment was outside, then the rain was coming, and we were like, we got to get this under, so everyone's helping to get the equipment under, and, it was a sense. I also got to see the sense of community, and it was nice.
It was great to see everybody come together. That's one thing I really enjoyed. And there were people, it was funny because as soon as the power goes out, I'm standing there, and everybody in the world who has never worked a day on the festival in any capacity is trying to call me, and everybody wants to be a superhero. And I'm here thinking, man, I appreciate your help, but I need to be able to communicate with the people who actually have been here for a day, let alone the people these people have been here working at this thing for a year. So you need to contact the right people to get things going. And I appreciated all of the help, but everyone was trying to call me at the one time, and meanwhile I'm trying to communicate with other people, and it was challenging.
And it just kept coming too, because I went over to the Sykes and the New Violence on the main stage, and they only got 4 or 5 songs in, and the cops were like, shut it down. I'm like, no, I wanted to see the full set,
I know, it's a shame.
But
you know what? Our police officers here in Millvale, really, they're looking out for the best interest of people's safety and the festival, because one thing I'm very, very happy and proud of is that our police chief actually sits on the Millvale Music Festival committee.
Nice.
And they're very active.
So he gets it.
He gets it. Yeah. They're very supportive. The Sweet Spot stage, which was at Randig Towing, that was actually arranged by the police chief.
Wow.
So he made the phone call. He got it going, and it was a lot of fun. It was a great event. So if you have any of your thoughts, please share them with us at River Talk PGH or in the live chat. But I do want to talk about your upcoming release. It's Eulogy.
Yes.
With MCM Studios here in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
So tell me about this. This comes out tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow. Yeah, it's crazy because I announced that I was doing this April 6th. We've been working on it since August 24th of 2017. Patrick just joined the private group on the Facebook. You can find me at MikeHitt.com, find out more YouTube. But essentially, Eulogy is my re-entry into being an artist again. I run MCM Studios over there in Southside. We've been there about 8 years now, and I spend a lot of time helping artists. But I opened that studio because I was an artist. So I wanted to create a place that I had wanted as an artist to go to make music, right? And I made that place, but through the process of helping other artists, when you're an artist, you have this itch to create yourself, Like I could watch people paint all day, but if I'm a painter, I'm still like, all right, give me a paintbrush and a canvas, and I really wasn't painting my own canvas. And as the years would go on, people would say, just little clues. I pay attention to the universe, and people would be like, man, you need to put out your music into the world. Or I'd be over someone's house and be like, why don't you put out music? And I never really had a solid answer for them, because, and people who run their own business or anything can attest to this. Another thing is when you start to focus business and music, there's a reason why artists have their own managers, and they don't, creatives are creative and business is business. And in order to do creative and business, it's a very fine line that I've had to walk for this past almost decade, right? And so now I'm ready to tip the scale a little over more to the creative side, because I've spent the past that amount of years engulfed in just everything: marketing, networking, branding, just everything that comes with running a business. And everyone knows me for MCM Studios. Everyone knows me for producing them or their cousin or their brother, their mom or dad, their son or daughter. And so now I just need that release to break free. And that's where Eulogy comes into play.
Yeah, so there's a lot of history that goes into
Yes.
this release as well.
Yes. And
Has it made it easier for you? Has it been easier for you or harder for you, being that you work being with MCM, because
Yeah.
you have resources at your fingertips, but then you're also being pulled into so many different directions?
Yes. So right now I'm playing massive double duty. So I still take care of my clients as if, that they're... One thing my clients will tell you, I take care of them like, they're my children. I give them complete attention, and so I'm focused on them, but then I'm also focused on this release. And throughout the years, like I said on another podcast, I kind of get beyond my resources, like say being on this podcast or being on Start the Beat or being on Mike Wasaki or wherever I may be, beyond the resources, I get to learn firsthand from artists the mistakes that they make. And they always say you can solve someone else's problems easier than you can solve your own. Right?
Yeah.
And so I was able to see the missteps that they were making. And so whenever I came to that hurdle myself for this release, I was able to adjust that. And you know what's funny? For all the things, I've done a lot of things right over the past 2 months for this release. Mm-hmm. And I've still learned about 10 things where I'm like, if I could just go back 2 months and just adjust these last 10 things, then this would have been a perfect release. But you know what? I think that's another issue, another hurdle that artists have, is they tweak and tweak and tweak, and they do that for
That's
so
why
long.
I hate doing things pre-recorded. I
Yes.
love doing things live,
Yes.
because whatever it is, it is.
It is, and that's what you have to do as an artist. You have to not think who's going to love it, who's not going to like it. Does it look right for them? Does it look right for them? You just need to create it to the best of your ability, and you have to... There's going to come a moment. I always say, people pay me... They don't pay me to come to the studio, right? There's a million studios. There's 50 studios in Pittsburgh, a million studios in the world. People pay me to tell them when to stop. They don't pay me to tell them to keep going. And maybe a money-hungry studio would be like, a little longer. But one thing that I'm known for myself, for others, is I'm like, this is it. And not, it's funny? It's so hard for artists to say, you're right, this is it. Let's just put it out. Because they're terrified that this is it.
Yeah.
And with Eulogy, there's some things I could have done better that I wanted to do better, promotion-wise, for the actual release tomorrow. But you know what? At the end of the day, I realized sometimes...
Where is the release tomorrow?
So we're going to do it in the Eulogy, if you Facebook Eulogy group, but it's going to be on my website, MikeHitt.net. It's going to be on iTunes, Spotify, the whole nine, all the digital stuff. It's going to be on YouTube, and it's just a video with a song. And I'm just going to put it out on as many platforms as I could possibly get it tomorrow. And the way I see it, Eulogy for me, it still drips back into what I do. I'm a producer, I'm an engineer, I'm an artist. So, for me to be like, whether or not this is successful, whether or not that'll make or break me, no. Artists and me, I just need to understand, and everyone needs to understand, it's just another... It's like when you're saving a jar with change, right? Mm-hmm. And people are like, there's only 10 pennies in there. But you neglect those 10 pennies in the beginning. But when the jar is full, you're like, yeah, that attributed to that whole pot being full. That's what Eulogy is for me. It's a little bit more change in the pot. So one day I can look back and be like, I got a full container full of creations,
I want to talk a little bit about MCM.
Yeah.
What does MCM stand for?
MCM stands for Middle Class Millionaire. Our slogan is Love Life, Live Rich, which it's a mindset, not money. And it was the brand that was tied to the first product I did in 2008. I made a shirt called I'm So Berg. And you ever see that shirt?
No, that's I like that though.
That's
good.
Awesome. And people always say you should bring it back, but I try not to backpedal on things that I do, right? But on the back, in 3 columns of 30 in alphabetical order, were all the places that make up Pittsburgh, because there's 90 neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm. And 90? I didn't know that there were 90 neighborhoods in Pittsburgh.
Yes, and if you go, you can actually still see, it's umsoberg.com.
And is that actual 90 neighborhoods in Pittsburgh,
yes,
or 90, just like Allegheny County?
No, 90 that make up the
city of Pittsburgh. So like Millvale's not, no, we're not.
No,
we're not in the city.
Yeah. So
that's what I mean.
Like McKeesport's not, because people were like, you need to put like places like Millvale on. I'm like, well, it's not the city.
It's not, yeah.
But like East Liberty and, people don't realize, that's what's really cool about Pittsburgh is we are all these little places connected. So it's funny, like when people even visit me from out of town, I'm like, they're like, where's, I'll be like, it's across town. And they're like, that's probably far. I'm like, no, it's probably about 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's such a small city. People don't realize, like it's mind-blowing. There are many who argue that the city should be merged with the county.
Yes, that's an ongoing debate.
But it is crazy, though, how small the city is. And
yes.
It's interesting from my perspective, living here in Millvale, because there are certain people in the city who will almost look down on you if you live just outside of the city limits.
Yes.
I'll live here in Millvale and I'll tell someone, oh, I live in Pittsburgh. And I'll hear from people, no, you don't. You live in Millvale.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I live closer to downtown than half of the city.
Yeah, that's right.
I can walk downtown. So,
And Allegheny County,
get over it.
I agree with that because a lot of the workforce travels into the city and leaves the city every day.
Yeah.
And to me, Allegheny County is all of Pittsburgh to me. Because there's only how many people? Maybe 1 million people. Not even. There's probably 300,000 people in the city, but then there's 2.3 million people that are in the surrounding areas, So, hey, but I'm not complaining because I don't pay city taxes.
What blows same here. What blows my mind about it, though, is we do live in Allegheny County.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we don't get the same services as in Pittsburgh, but all of that comes out of county funds. So, I'll hear all the time, you don't get as much busing from Millvale, and I'll ask people why, and they'll say, oh, well, you don't live in the city.
Yeah.
Well, the Port Authority's not owned by the city.
Right.
It's owned by the county. I pay county taxes. Why?
Right.
It makes no sense.
Yeah, and they cut a lot of... Man, it's crazy to think that, even 15 years ago, I rode the bus everywhere, but now I'm so happy I drive. I say, you live in the city or you live in this county, a car's a necessity. It's not a luxury anymore.
Yeah.
Even if you have a beater car, even though we're small... it's an hour to walk, but it's 10 minutes to drive.
Yes.
You save so much time.
Oh, and the busier you get, the harder it is.
Yeah, God.
With being a business owner, you know that your life is nonstop.
Yes, exactly.
And you don't have time to just wait and waste. I can't imagine some of these people I work with. I work overnight, and they'll take the bus into work, but because of the work schedule and the bus schedule, they'll get to work an hour early. They got to wait an hour after their shift before they can catch the bus. Yeah.
You could have went to the gym. You could have read a book. You could have slept in. That's all this time that you could have used to make your life better. And people are always like, I don't want to buy a car. I don't buy a car. I'm like, just think, you spend $2,000 on a beater or a pretty decent car. You literally save hundreds of hours in your year that you can use to make your life better, and maybe you won't even have to go to work anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe you can apply that time into building your business, into building your brain, and building your spirit and your body. But, hey, can't teach the pig how to fly. Don't teach them how to fly because it's only going to piss them off, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So, but the release, you can find that at MikeHitt.net or 412MCMstudios.com.
Yep. Or you'll be able to just simply Google Mike Hitt Eulogy and it'll pop right up.
What's up? What's next for you? What's next after this release?
So here's what I'm going to do. For the next... so this release is kind of that's another thing. I think artists, when you put out a release and it doesn't succeed or it doesn't, it's not the talk of the world, then they quit, they give up, they crawl back in their hole, right? And for me, Eulogy, more than anything, that is my feeler. For as much work as I put into it, it's still just a feeler. So I have 2 more songs that are done. The videos are done. We've been doing all this since the end of last year. I planned my next year at the end of the last year, right? So around October, all my studio clients know I say, get into the studio because the year's over. To me, when October comes, the year's over.
Yeah.
So I'm focusing on what's coming up next. So I already have 2 more songs and videos that are done. One will come out 4th of July weekend. One will come out in October. Those are videos. Then in between, I'm going to put out songs. And for the next 6 months, I'm just going to really focus on building my foundation, putting out releases, having a quality stable of content on all digital media, and then at the end of the 6 months I can kind of evaluate where I'm at as an artist. My business is already, if I close a studio tomorrow, it was already a success. I was around when all you could go to was Mr. Small's, ID Labs, and soy sauce. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Now you got 50 options, and I've survived.
It's a lot of options.
A lot of options. I've survived through all that. And so, that's already a success. Just like I'm So Berg, that was already a success. I did that. I was done. I moved on to the studio. And I always dabbled in being an artist, but I never said, for these months, this is what I'm focusing on. And so for the next 6 months, that is really my 75% focus, because I still got to run the other business. I got to take care of my personal life, all that. But my 75% focus is being an artist, putting out this content, getting it on platforms. And then after that, I'm hoping to do the next thing that I have coming down the pipeline is I'd like to do seminars for artists to kind of help them find their footing, find their way. And that'd be for whether you're a creative artist, whether you want to open a recording studio, whether you want to do the business of music, because I've acquired a lot of knowledge in that in all this time. So after I'm an artist, after I'm focused on that, depending on what that does, the next thing that's on that list, on my dream board of things to put out is just to kind of be the spark for whoever, the next person, and teach someone else. And yeah, that's it. And then that'll take up the rest of the year.
You can start right here because we do have a question for you, and we'll kind of wrap up after this. But Sadie, friend, she messages here in the Facebook Live chat at River Talk PGH.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips on balancing business and creativity?
So this is going to be good, right? I always tell all my clients this. I say, business isn't personal, right? But music is the rare place where business is personal, okay? And that is something that you have to understand, and it's a lot of reason why artists fail, truthfully, is because, they, if they're not making money or something, they give up, and they're too creative. And if they're too much business, they're not creating enough content to sustain the business. So my best thing for you, my advice would be to, like what I'm doing now, set a timeline and set a goal. And then the things you need to do will fall into place. So like I said, for the next 6 months, I have my next 3 video releases set. I have my next 5 individual song releases set. So it's about 9 songs that I have. And then in between, I know that the studio is going to fill the gap. And then any other loose, then I can take, a couple hours a week and fulfill this seminar plan. But the most important thing is to have a plan and figure out where you want to go and start to fill those gaps in a piece at a time. And don't get overwhelmed by either. That's really important.
Awesome. That's Mike Hitt. You can find out more information at MikeHitt.net.
Thank you.
You can also find out at 412mcmstudios.com. The release comes out tomorrow, so check that out. Again, MikeHitt.net. We've got Patrick Lawton up in just a few minutes, but before we roll into that, he's going to be talking about the PHILLTER Fest, International Fest that's coming here to Pittsburgh. But before we roll into that, we have your weird news right here on Pittsburgh's Voice for Local Music, The River's Edge. This is the River's Edge Radio Network. Brian Crawford here, broadcasting from Mr. Small's studio, Mr. Small's Theater at the River's Edge studio at riversedgepgh.com. You can watch us live every Sunday night, 7 p.m. at riversedgepgh.com/live. I am here with not 1, not 2, but 3 weird stories to keep the Mon Monster at bay, where I, Brian Crawford, single-handedly save the entire city of Pittsburgh from total destruction each and every week, because everyone knows that the Mon Monster is a big fan of the weird news. However, apparently I wasn't very successful during the Millvale Music Festival, since it came in with a giant storm and blew out 6 venues. But we're going to try better this week, see if we can come up with some weird stories to entertain the beast. Number 1 has to deal with an interesting captivity case. People throughout the ages, throughout the years, unfortunately do some really horrible things, and you often hear stories about people who keep people captive, that whether it's for a hostage situation or just because they're really, really crazy. And this one, I think, is probably the most interesting story I've seen so far. A man decided to hold someone captive in Connecticut, not Florida, not somewhere down south, not in the Everglades, no, in Connecticut, by using an alligator. It says here, authorities in Connecticut, according to the Huffington Post, arrested a man who allegedly used an alligator in a bizarre attempt to extort money from the family of a man he's accused of kidnapping. It's quoted here as saying, "They got this alligator on me, and they're saying that if no money is given, they're gonna have him chewing on me." That's what the victim said on April 6th in a phone call to an aunt living in Bridgeport. So there's an interesting way to try to make some cash, I suppose. What else do we have here? We have, this is an interesting one. We have a story that's coming from Yahoo today, and this has to do with another interesting criminal case. It says, this is according to the Associated Press. News outlets report the McCormick County Sheriff's Office announced Thursday that a mischievous marsupial was roaming the county for the second time in 3 days. Major Robert Christie says authorities have yet to discern how it escaped, but it's likely that the kangaroo found a week ago in a fence in a fence or gate that was left open. The kangaroo's Houdini act first was noticed Tuesday when Sheriff Clark Stearns says calls came streaming in about a kangaroo sighting along Highway 28. Stearns says its owner was notified and was able to corral the animal. Details about the kangaroo's Thursday morning exploits and capture were not released. And finally, we have an election story. And I wish maybe could take some notes here from Russia when it comes to election time. That's right, I know everyone says Russia, it's not a real election, but at least it's more fun. In Russia, and this is according to the Huffington Post again, a man decided to come in to vote wearing a bear costume. He's there. It shows him at the voting booth behind the curtain in a giant bear costume, complete with a little tail as well, and he decided to vote. It says apparently bears are allowed to vote in Russia, or at least people in bear costumes. During Sunday's national election, a voter in the Siberian town of, I'm not even going to try to say that. What is it? Server-Robasia? I don't know. It's a hard one. I'm not Russian. More than 3,400 miles east of Moscow, decided to show he was bullish on Russia by dressing up as a bear. Russian government-controlled Sputnik News reported that the unnamed voter scared a few people with his loud roar, but that was but most people seem to be amused. See, that to me is the best way to do voter suppression. Here in the United States, we've had times where people have done some pretty horrible things to scare people away from voting. That's a fun one. Dress up as a bear costume and roar at people. I can see why some people would be a little put off by that. This is The River's Edge. That is your weird news for this week. I think we're going to skip out on the judging segment today unless somebody comes up with some interesting topics. But we are going to roll right into the PHILLTER International Fest, and I have Patrick right here. Welcome to The River's Edge.
Hey, Brian.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. So, how did you get involved? Were you involved in previous years?
I was not. No, I'm sort of new to the scene. I've sort of been on a hiatus for a little bit, and I came out of retirement, so to speak, and I started going to the Acoustic Cafe, and I met a bunch of really awesome, amazing people there. One of the guys, Mike Y., who's sort of integral with the PHILLTER thing, we started talking, and we both sort of have a love for the tech part of it and the music part of it.
You're talking about like live looping and things like that?
Actual mechanical part of it, yeah.
What is live looping for people who are unfamiliar?
So basically, live looping can be, for me personally, it is, I play guitar, I run through some effects pedals and into an amplifier, and I use it as a practice tool. I use it as all sorts of different things. It's a great writing tool, but basically, it comes down to playing something live, recording it, and then taking that and tweaking it, playing guitars over top of it. I've seen people do it with beatbox. I've seen people do it with chord chaos pads, lots of hip hop stuff, lots of DJ style things.
I've seen some crazy ones as well. I've seen somebody use a violin.
Yeah, violins. There's a girl that comes to the acoustic cafe that that does live looping with a violin. It's all across the board. It's pretty amazing. It's neat because there's really, there's no limitations to it. You can do whatever you want with it. You can be a total amateur, and it can really show you how to find your sound, can show you how to find rhythm. You can play very basic things over top of it, and if you're just starting out, it's an amazing tool to use.
How did you get into it? Because I feel like it's not the most obvious thing to get into. I didn't realize that it was a thing until I started getting more involved in the music community myself.
That is a multifaceted answer. I don't like to compromise with people on my music, so it came down to I wanted to do my own thing, and I kind of got tired of telling people what to do, and I just wanted to play my own stuff by myself and not have to compromise, and that's what it was for me. Plus, it was relatively inexpensive to get into. I mean, for a guitar player, you need a guitar.
So that's interesting. I would have thought the opposite. I thought with all of the tech, it would have been more money to get into.
Once upon a time, with Craigslist, I mean, the rig that I'm playing right now, it's basically two different loop pedals. One is a Line 6 DL4. You can pick them up on Craigslist for, $75, 80 bucks now. And it's kind of the one that sort of, for me, started everything. When I worked at a music store, it sort of appeared. It is a delay pedal and a looper, and it's just a really neat tool. And one of my favorite things about it is you can't put too much time into it, so you really kind of have to have a plan going into it. And it's a timing kind of thing, it's a spatial kind of thing, and when you start to use that as a tool for your playing, as a tool for your sonic palette, it's really limitless. There's so many different things you can do with it.
How long have you been doing the live looping aspect? Did you start with that, or did you start as
I started off as a bass player.
And then you transitioned into that?
And then, I started playing acoustic guitar, and then eventually the loopers started appearing on the scene, and I had access to them. I think I rented my first one because, it was the efficient thing to do, and it's just sort of it got to the point with me that I almost didn't want to play without it because it became such a huge part of my sound and what I did, and it's sort of it's helped me dissect my sound in a lot of different ways, and I feel like I've come full circle to it because now I'm trying to be a songwriter. I'm trying to put these songs out there and write songs, and I'm just trying to use that as just another sort of color, another tool in the toolbox, and not have it be an obvious thing. And it's neat because I can go out with an acoustic guitar, a couple pedals, battery powered, and I'm set up and ready to go, and I can pretend to be Jerry Garcia or whatever, I can really flip some stuff out. So it's a ton of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's the main part. It's a lot of fun.
And it's the PHILLTER Fest, PHILLTER. And there's so many different things that are going on with this festival, which I think is great. It's a multi-day festival. It starts on the 30th, May 30th, and it runs through the 3rd of June. And you can find out more. There's a Facebook page, and then also there's a website here as well, which is festival.philter. That's PHILLTER.org. So how did you get involved with this, Patrick? How did you get involved with the event?
I met a couple folks that were involved with
Mike
it.
Y at the Acoustic Cafe.
Yeah, they liked what we were
What will
doing.
you be doing? Where will you be performing?
I am going to be kicking everything off. I believe the first event is at Moondogs,
Okay.
which is kind of like my hometown, so it's pretty neat.
Nice. You're from Blawnox area
I'm
originally?
from Aspinwall, Sharpsburg. I've lived everywhere, at this point.
Blawnox is like that only place. We were talking about Pittsburgh and all of the millions of neighborhoods. I don't know if Blawnox is part of the city. I think they're separate from the city.
It is separate, yeah.
But they're probably the only town where the old Pittsburgh accent still survives, right?
It's extreme.
Yeah, and nowhere else. It's funny, people act like that's all over the city, but really it's just in Blawnox at this point, for the most part.
Blawnox, Sharpsburg.
Yeah.
The old mill towns, it still exists there, for sure.
It's a cool town, and Moondogs is a great place. I
Moondogs is a
I
great
love that
place,
little
yeah.
town, and it's so close to where we are at here in Millvale. I know before we went on air, we were talking about the Piano and Stuff store up there, which is great.
Amazing store.
Yeah,
Amazing people.
Nice being able to run right up there. My friend Matt Kastner, I know we had talked about him. He works up there as well.
Yeah,
but
and it's a great spot because they have a rental department too, and like I would rent the loopers straight from them, and that's places like that make it accessible for guys that don't have a ton of money in their pocket too.
It's amazing how things have become more affordable.
Affordable, accessible, it's all out there, and
Even with this, when we started the River's Edge out as a podcast, I was determined that I had to have actual fader pots. I could not do something digitally and send it out there or have some sort of artificial board. I needed something real. So I ended up buying my first board, but I was able to get a board that had, I think, 6 channels for under $200, and it had built-in compression and everything.
Right.
And I was able to buy all of my gear and be up and running for under $300-400, which might sound like a lot to somebody, but really it's not that much to be able to start a project like that.
Most of the boards and most of the preamps and most of the interfaces now, the mic pre's are great on all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like you have to have some Neumann mic from the 70s to sound great anymore. You can go out, you can spend a couple $100. Libraries are doing things like this. Like I'm very intrigued about what the Carnegie Library in East Liberty is doing.
Well, right here in Millvale, you can borrow equipment.
Really?
At the library, yeah.
I've walked by the Carnegie Library in East Liberty and seen 12-year-old kids there with headphones playing guitars and turntables and stuff, and it's amazing.
It's amazing what they're doing at that library. I don't know if this has been made public yet or not, but they are going to be coming out with a kind of a borrowing system for local music, which is really cool, and I'm hoping that maybe we can work together with them, because you could then get to a situation where you're listening to riversedgepgh.com, Pittsburgh's voice for local music, listening to all local music there, and hear a song that you like. And that's the one glorious thing about online radio versus terrestrial radio, is as you're listening to the song, you can see the name of the artist and the song right there on the page. Even if you use a third-party app like TuneIn Radio, it still shows you that information. So you hear a song that you like, you find the name of the artist with the song, and then you could go to the library and then borrow an entire album and listen through the whole thing, and then possibly go and hopefully you'll go out and end up buying the merchandise and the music as well. But it's a great way to really dive into some local bands that you like, and I'm excited to see that process take off with the library.
Absolutely.
Which is cool. So what's up next with you? What do you have scheduled for yourself as a musician outside of the festival? And what's kind of your journey?
I am extremely happy living in Millvale and making music in Millvale and everything. It's neat because it's sort of becoming a made in Millvale thing for me.
Yeah. It's actually a slogan here.
Is it?
It is, yeah. There's a made in Millvale slogan.
I would like in on that.
Yeah.
But no, that's a real
merch.
thing. I'm at the point in my life where I'm not out there trying to make money at this, because that's what ruined me with it before.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people don't like to hear that, the guy that plays and doesn't want to make a buck, but I really don't care about that because I can't separate the two. It's like you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I am horrible at it.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot separate the two, so I have to not think about that, and I have to also not think about what everybody else is doing and focus on my thing. So I'm trying to focus on my thing. I'm going to continue to do these little things if they pop up, and I'm starting to do some house events also.
Good.
House parties are neat, Nashville style.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing a project, an acoustic trio project with Megan Williams and Trish Imbrogno, upright bass, violin, acoustic guitar. That's really kind of near and dear to my heart.
And we're also bringing in Mike Hitt as well.
He got me Patrick has me so interested in him.
Yeah, that's fine. That's great.
That's a project that I am going to try and release maybe like a 10 to 12 song album in the fall. So
nice.
I'm kind of looking at October, sort of like what you were talking about with the year-end stuff.
Yeah.
So that's the goal, is to kind of pull it all together then.
When's your house show?
I have one coming up on the 22nd.
Okay.
Of next month, whatever that month is.
June. My birthday month.
Can't keep track. And just trying to stay local and keep it local and keep my money local and do lots of local things. And hang out with local people, and I'm really digging it. I discovered the River's Edge radio. I turned it on. The very first song was by my best friend Kevin Finn, and
nice.
I was hooked.
Yeah, Kevin's a great guy.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
3 songs later, it's somebody else.
Solar Burn or something. Yeah.
Right. It's great. So it's really neat, everything that's happening in and around Millvale, in and around Pittsburgh. And I'm just trying to meet people, just trying to network.
You got the right attitude.
And trying to keep the blinders on and focus on the songs, man.
Yeah. Hopefully that works out.
Well, before we have you play a song for us, I do want to get to a few more of these comments from the Millvale Music Festival. We had some interesting ones here. One of them was on my wall. I'm actually going to steal some from Scott Mervis as well, because there were some interesting comments when he had asked. He's the writer for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, who did some great articles on the festival. Vincent Didiano said that he was a volunteer for the first time, and he was hosting the Happy Day Lounge. He said it was a great, cool little old-school bar, and he got to meet the owner briefly, which was really nice. His sound man was named David, and he said that they did not lose power at the Happy Day, so he was thrilled with that. George says that he woke up, showered, and rushed down to Strange Roots to catch Horace Mays, had 2 beers for breakfast, started feeling it, and then the rains came down from Africa, and a generator exploded. So
it's a haiku, isn't it?
And it's great because he has the hashtag, because that stage down there was sponsored by an energy company and Green Mountain Energy, and he has the hashtag don't care because solar powered stage, because they had a solar powered stage there at Strange Roots.
Nice.
And let's see, Eric Butler says that they parked on Stanton, walked down to Panza Gallery. It rained, so he went to the Double L. Then he went to Mr. Smalls. He's pretty sure that they had 5 bands going on at the same time. We had that at least at several times. There were 24 stages for the event. And he said he headed back to Panza Gallery, listened to some live bands, and had a good time. We have Amber, who says that she enjoyed giving the girls their first music festival metal experience. She spent a lot of time up at the Fun House, which was the Metal Edge stage, which you can find out more information about the Metal Edge at metaledgepgh.com. They're all 24 hours of local Pittsburgh metal music. And she really enjoyed seeing Taryn light up, watching all of the female musicians in admiration. There were a lot of female musicians up there at the metal stage. And Chris's daughter being entirely stoked. There was a cheerleader who danced with her, and it was a Millvale Music Festival cheerleader. It was Jenny Sides who organized the street performers. She had created her own Millvale Music Festival t-shirt.
Nice.
Ryan said the whiskey flowed and the music rang out into the night. Yeah, we actually got some. We didn't get free whiskey. What did we get? Free rum, I believe, from Maggie's Rum House at the Panza Gallery, which was a great. Yeah, that was a great addition. Well, it wasn't free to you. It was free to the festival. They donated it to us, and then we were able to then utilize it. See, Jesse Prentice says that it was super weird walking back up to Smalls after catching some of Paul Labree's band set at the Double L, and the traffic lights were all out, realizing that the power was out for blocks. He said props to Duquesne Light and the Millvale Fire Department, and I agree, definitely big props to them. They were great. The first night was a huge success this year. I really enjoyed that. We did the Friday opening night at the food truck park, and that was another thing where we were venturing into unknown territory. I didn't know how it would do. They had a big food truck there just before that event, one that was touring the country. It was known around the world, and that drew in these huge crowds, so I didn't know what to expect for the Friday night event for us, but it was packed. What was the food truck? It was some sort of lobster food truck.
Oh, yeah, I had that. Yeah.
Did you have it? I didn't have it because there was too long of a line, and I don't like to wait in line. I can't help it. I'm somebody, I don't mind waiting my turn.
Yeah.
I don't like waiting in a line. There's something that's so agonizing and grueling about that long crawl, that inch, that slow, sluggish inch to the front of a line. I can't deal with it.
I drank a lot of beers waiting.
Yeah, the thing is you got to get out of line to get more beer. I mean, that line was so long that you would have run out of a beer before you got to the front of the line. So I just wouldn't have been able to deal with that personally. Joe says, even though I watched the music all day when I wasn't playing, I felt like there was no way I could see everyone. There was no way you could see everyone, Joe. It was amazing to be in a small town that I called home for 10 years and thinking that it was too big to see everyone I wanted to. So that was great. There was one comment in here I was hoping to get to that I really was kind of annoyed with. Okay, this is it. It was from Lauren. She says, it was fun to watch Pittsburgh's bar-hopping fans pretend to be local music fans for a day. You know, everyone complains about people not being supportive of the scene. They come out to be supportive of the scene, and then you want to bitch at them for being supportive.
That's how you find out about them.
That's how you find out about them. Exactly. That's how you find out about people. That's how you find out about local music. And I'll be honest, if somebody comes and that's the vibe and that's the energy that you're going to be giving, then why are they going to come back? I know if I was new to the scene and I got lectured for trying to support local music, then I'm just not going to support local music.
Exactly.
So I thought that comment was kind of rubbish, I'll be honest. But other than that, all positive comments. It was great to hear how many people came out and said just how organized everything was and how things worked out so well despite all of the rain. Let's see, this one's pretty good. My barber, this is from a guy named Dave. He says, my barber plays drums for Cosmotron, and my wife and I arrived at the New Sun Rising venue just after the power outage, so no Cosmotron. We walked down to Grist House and saw Elkhound, and then I wanted to see Lo-Fi Delphi when it started to rain again. Which a lot of rain stories, unfortunately. But nice thing about the New Sun Rising venue is I believe they got just about everybody to perform. They were able to keep things up and running. So after the power came back, they brought everyone back in as a delay. The beer was delicious. Shuttles were timely. And the people and dogs were friendly. The Millvale cheerleader, again, was a hit in the Grist House courtyard. There's so many more comments. I can't get through all of them. There's just so many great things that have been said about the festival. And it was really a pleasure to put that together for a second year. I'm really looking forward to year 3. The technology, I think, is going to be our big focus this year. We already, I'll be honest, are more technologically savvy than any other festival in Pittsburgh in an operational standpoint, way more than even the Three Rivers Arts Festival, anyone like that. And we've got so much more that is coming and on its way. But right now, we've got Patrick Lawton, who is going to be performing, which I'm very excited about, the PHILLTER International Music Festival, 5:30 to 6:30. You can find out more information about that at festival.philter, PHILLTER.org. We're a proud sponsor of the event, and we'll be streaming the Three Rivers Arts Festival live at millvalemusic.org. No, not at millvalemusic.org. We'll be streaming it live at riversedgepgh.com/live, our live video stream. We'll be streaming that in live video and audio. But we've got a song from you, Patrick. We're going to close out with that. Thanks to Mike. Thanks to Patrick for coming in. Again, Mike, one more time. Give a plug out to your release for tomorrow.
Yeah, Mike Hitt Eulogy. You can find that with a simple Google search or MikeHitt.net. And if you want to record at the studio, it's 412mcmstudios.com.
Awesome. I will be back next Sunday. The Saturday show is on a hiatus until further notice, but I'll be back Sunday, 7 p.m., and then, of course, rebroadcast on the stream Monday at 10 a.m. in the morning, and that's all at riversedgepgh.com. For Mike, for Patrick, my name is Brian Crawford. This has been River Talk on the Rivers Edge Radio Network. We've got Patrick Lawton right now with a song to wrap things up right here on Pittsburgh's Voice for Local Music, The Rivers Edge.
Yes.